Hello VC again, this is Bev here, Clark Revision, and this is another contest entry that I am going to do. This one is for the Rock Scout, aka Scott, and I'm going to put down his channel in the description, so if you're not a subscriber to him then you should be, because again he's another excellent final community member and he shows a whole load of great stuff as well, and he's a fellow Scot, and so that's enough of a reason. So anyway, now his competition is his 250 subs contest, because he's reached over 250 subs, so congratulations on that, Scott. Clearly your channel is liked by a lot of people, and myself included. I find what you show really interesting as well. So now Scott the Rock Scout had asked, he's got 5 questions that you've to answer to enter his competition. So I'm going to do that, and question number 1 is, what's your favourite year in music and why? Well, for me it's easy to answer that, because it sticks out. It's either 87 or 88. Now I could have said 87 simply because this came out in 1987, but I'm actually going to say 88. 1988 I think was the definitive year for me. By that time Hysteria was well released, songs were charting, the band was on the biggest tour of their life, and at the time, you know, in 1988 Def Leppard's popularity just went through the roof worldwide because of that album, and they were basically the biggest band in the world in 1988, so that's primarily why, but also I was discovering lots of other rock music at the time as well. For example, this was released in 88. Can I Play With Madness is the song that made me sit up and pay attention to Iron Maiden. This album was released by Europe, Out of This World. I think this is actually my favourite Europe album. It was the first album certainly I got. I mean, I was aware of the Final Countdown obviously, but I really loved this album. This came along in 88 later on as well, and at the time I really thought this was a good album, very enjoyable. Like Bad Medicine was a terrific song, as is Born to Be My Baby, etc, etc. You know, and my favourite single from Def Leppard came out in 88, which was this one, Armageddon, as well, so that was in the charts too. So, you know, and loads of other bands, not just rock and metal, there was the pop charts, and back then the charts were pretty decent. Generally music all round was good, life was good. That was the year also I went from primary school to high school. There was the Glasgow Garden Festival in 1988, which we went to. The school took us there. Don't know how many people around Scotland remember that one. But yeah, so 1988 it is. Question 2, you name your all-star band. Now this was really tricky for me because it's difficult. There's so many good musicians out there. But here's what I've picked. For the vocals, for the singer, Robert Plant. For obvious reasons, he has a phenomenal voice. He is a really creative musician and songwriter, and well, you know, his career speaks for itself. On drums at the back of the band, I've gone with Nico McBrain from Iron Maiden, just simply because he's one of my favourite drummers, and he's a phenomenal drummer. The energy he has, you know, and the drum kit he's got, it's just such a good drummer with so many, different timings and things, and plus his best pal Sooty's always hanging out with him when he's on tour. Love Sooty. So now bass, I found bass tricky, really tricky, because I don't particularly have a favourite bass player as such, but I do appreciate good musicians. So surprisingly, I've picked Geddy Lee from Rush. Now, Rush is a band I don't like, but I picked Geddy Lee because of his talents as a musician. And just to quote, this kind of sums it up a wee bit briefly for me, to quote something that Bass Player magazine has said about him. They say, his ability to trigger samples, play keys, step on bass pedals and sing vocal parts in odd time signatures while nailing Rush's complex yet catchy bass lines will always be mind-blowing. So for me, I know he was a singer as well in Rush, but for me, he's on bass duties really primarily in this band of mine, and just his musical ability and the knowledge he has as a musician. So that's why I've got Geddy Lee. Now, guitars, I love guitars and guitar players, so I've picked three, as in the current Iron Maiden. They have three guitar players, so I'm going with three guitar players. For more creativity and stuff. So guitar player number one, you'll know who that is. It's Steve Clark of Def Leppard, the late Steve Clark. As far as I'm concerned, he's the greatest guitar musician that the world's ever seen in recent times. He was a classically trained musician. I've said all this before. He could read music. He knew all the musical knowledge and, things you can do with music. He didn't just pick up a guitar and be a smart arse like some of them do. That's not what it's about for me. For Steve, it was always about the music, the composition, the creation of music, which is why I think he fit in well with the other guys, Geddy Lee and Robert Plant. Next up is Randy Rhoads, again classically trained musician as well. So similar in background knowledge to Steve. Their styles were slightly different. Randy was more of a melodic soloist, and the solo was more his focus rather than possibly the whole, which is why I wanted the contrast there. Steve Clark could equally do a solo. He was very technical that way, and people seem to link technical with speed, and if you understand music properly, that'll be the most incorrect thing in the world, is to associate technicality with purely speed. There's much more to it than that. So yeah, Steve and Randy were both technical, but their styles were just that little bit different. However, with a classical background, that nails it for me, and the creativity as well. My third guitarist again is Adrian Smith. So I know that's two guys for Iron Maiden, but it's my all-star band. So Adrian Smith is guitarist number 3. Reason being, he's another guitarist who he doesn't put mindless whittling first. He puts melody and harmony first. And again, for me, that is what it's all about. Just off Wikipedia, it says about Adrian here, his early influence included Johnny Winters and Pat Travers, which he claims made him a melodic player rather than a speed merchant or shredder, as he was inspired by blues rock rather than metal. So, you've got the bluesy thing. And I know for a fact that Adrian is very particular about his tone. I've known sometimes he can be really unhappy if he can't get the sound right when he's on stage or whatever. It annoys him, and that's just because of, he's very particular about the sound coming through which, and the tonal qualities. And so I think all these three guitarists mixed with Geddy Lee and Robert Plant is a pretty creative force, and you could have some amazing stuff there. So that's that one. Next question, number 3, your favourite movie soundtrack. Well, I had a good think about this, and I think I've come to the conclusion my favourite movie soundtrack is going to be the Back to the Future one. And I've not got the album of the soundtrack, I don't have it, but this is the trilogy of the DVD set. But what I love about Back to the Future is the musical theme. I don't know if it tells you in here actually who was responsible for the Back to the Future theme. Hang on a second. Part 1, 2, 3. It tells you all the gunk in here, the stuff. Anyway, I can't really see it off the top of my head, but it'll be out there somewhere. So the guy that composed the music for Back to the Future, the actual soundtrack music, I think it's fantastic. It's, very kind of classical sounding thing. But again, you had other tracks in there, there was some 50s classics, Mr. Sandman, there was Huey Lewis and the News, The Power of Love, obviously, there was Van Halen stuff in there, and the further on ones, you had ZZ Top as well, but I'm going with the first Back to the Future movie here, so that's my favourite movie soundtrack. Number 4 is, what is your favourite collaboration between a band and someone else, or a producer, or two musical parties? Now, this I found a bit tricky as well, but I've settled on, I'm going to go with the Scorpions and the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra with the Moment of Glory collaboration that they did. I thought that was a phenomenal infusion of hard rock and classical orchestration. It just, when I heard Rock You Like a Hurricane done in this way, I thought, I love that. And I think that's the thing about rock and metal that is very cool, is I think it is mostly based on a classical background, more so than likes of jazz, and blues is another influence in it, but a lot of it infuses well with the classical style. So definitely Moment of Glory, and I don't actually have the DVD. I've been wanting to get it for ages. It is something I do want to get hold of. But so yeah, the Scorpions and the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra. The other one I would say I really love is the single Barcelona, which is by Freddie Mercury and Montserrat Caballé, I think her name is. That was a collaboration done in 1987-88. It charted. It was a big hit at the time, and this was for the Olympics in 1992 that was going to be in Barcelona in Spain. Fantastic song, great collaboration. Last but not least, your favourite live performance from a band. Well, I assume that means a concert you've been to physically yourself. For me, I've not been to too many, but the one that I enjoyed the best, that would be Bon Jovi on their These Days tour in 1996. They came to Ibrox Stadium in Glasgow, and my cousin and I went along to see them, and it was a really fantastic show. I enjoyed it very much. And I remember the last track they did was Living on a Prayer, and they took ages, they kept the crowd waiting for ages, to the point where some people thought that was it, over and done with, and started to leave. And but I says, no, I'm not budging, because they're bound to play Living on a Prayer right enough they came out. And so that was in July 1996. I think the ticket was about £25 or something then. Sadly, tickets are nowhere near that nowadays. one of the reasons why I refuse to go to concerts these days. But hey ho, so that is my favourite live performance. However, favourite live performance by a band ever from videos or anything like that would be Def Leppard in the Round in Your Face from Denver, purely because of Steve Clark being in there. Just there you go. So that's my entry to the Rock Scouts 250 subs competition. Get subscribing to Scott here, and that's enough of my babbling. I've got more videos to come today, so I'll see you later on. Bye for now.